good afternoon. The book we have today is this year's winner of the Booker International Prize. And as Sunita just said, a very intense book, one which has generated a lot of interest worldwide. And today we get to hear about it from Sunita Shetty. And we will then join a discussion with her about the book. So over to Sunita now.
Thank you so much, Mohini. I can't see my. Has anybody read Kairos at all?
Yes, yes.
Oh, that's great. I am so glad. Good. We will get another opinion at least, or we can have a discussion on this. It won't be only my view on Kairos that is there. All right. So Kairos, as you'll know, is the book that won the International Booker this year, written by an East German author, Jenny Erpenbeck. She was born in East Berlin, in 67. She's almost my age. She writes opera, playwright, and she's won awards for many of her books. So even her previous one in 2017, Go Went Gone, was also longlisted for the International Booker, for the Booker Prize in 2018. And so she's not new to the Booker list that is there. Most of her books touch upon East Germany. There is some bit of East Germany in all her books. But I think if you read Kairos, you'll realize that this book is largely about GDR. A lot of people talk about this book as being a love story, a tragic love story. But really, it is a book about East Germany. It's a book about East Germany told through the lives of the two people in the book, Hans and Katrina, and through their love story that is there. We'll come to that in just a bit. Michael Hoffman was the person who translated it, and he obviously must be phenomenal, I think, in translation, because it's not an easy book to translate. From the lens that I am seeing, because one is that it's very dense with cultural references, political references, musical references, so many things that she packs into this book. And also, her writing style is very different. She always uses these, what they call as run-on sentences, and lots of very short sentences that are there. He calls it sentence fragments that she uses in the book. And that, I'm sure, couldn't make it easy to be able to translate a book like this. But he's obviously a phenomenal translator. He's worked, as you can see, with multiple German authors, including Kafka. He's won many literary prizes himself. He's been a judge of the Booker as well. So it's interesting, to see him translate a book that eventually went on to winning the Booker Prize that is there. Let me get the elephant in the room that is there. Let's get that one out. Right? Why Kairos? Why was the book called? Kairos. Why is the book called Kairos? Kairos, if you look in the dictionary, means a favorable moment for decision. Really. That's what it means. It's also in the book, in the epilogue, as she opens the book, she does talk about Kairos being the god of fortunate moments. In Greek mythology, it is Kairos, as you can see here, is a person who, has a sleek body, has wings on his feet, and has one lock of hair. So if you ever have to catch Kairos, you have to catch him by his lock of hair, because you can't catch him any other way, with his wings, and, he'll take off, and his sleek body, there's no other way to catch him but his lock of hair. And that's when you can have your fortunate moment. So we'll talk about the fortunate moment in this book, and why it's called why it's called Kairos. That's what it means for now. Here's what the critics have to say about Kairos. Um, New York Times says that she's one of the most sophisticated and powerful novelists, and clinging to the undercarriage of her sentences like fugitives are intimations of German politics, history, and cultural memory. So, as you can see, the book is really about East Germany. The Telegraph calls it like all best allegories. Kairos cannot be reduced to a single unambiguous message. There are many questions about the nature of love, memory, history, truth, and no concrete answers. The Guardian, I think, puts it in a way that I would describe it, that it is a bleak novel. Yeah, I wouldn't call it beautiful, but it is a very, very bleak novel that is there. And The Guardian says spending time with Erpenbeck's rigorous and uncompromising imagination is invigorating all the way to the final page. Yeah, and then the Atlantic has to say good things about it as well. Here's what the chair of the 2024 judge had to say. And you can read what is written there. That in luminous prose, she exposes the complexity of a relationship between a young student and a much older writer, tracking the daily tensions and the reversal that marks their intimacy, staying close to the apartments, cafes, city streets, workplaces, and foods of East Berlin. Right, so it's a lot. It really, the book takes you through East Berlin in so many different ways. In terms of life that is there, in terms of culture, in terms of the political upheaval that's happening in East Germany. So it starts with passion and love, and it's at least as much about and it's as much about power, art, and culture. The self absorption of the lovers and their descent into a destructive vortex remains connected to the larger history of East Germany during this period. So that's what she says. All right, now I'm going to. Right. So Kairos, like the Guardian says, has been described as a very, very bleak novel. I have to confess right in the beginning that it took a lot out of me to complete the book. Um, it's dense, it's tough to go through, it's complex in the way it's written. A lot of it is in fragmented sentences. So sometimes the conversation, the beginning, it was fun. It was almost like trying to see who's saying this. It's a conversation between the two characters, and you almost don't know who's saying what to whom. And you have to sort of keep going back to, to refer to who is the person who's saying what. But I think the cultural references, the political references, takes a lot to understand. And at some point, I actually gave up on going back to the internet to figure out who is this person and who is that person and who are they referring to. But once that I've completed the book, um, I think I figured out, I understand why it probably won the Booker. I think there's an intensity to the book. I think she does a phenomenal job in the allegory of these two characters against what is happening in East Germany at that time. Okay, so let's get started. The story unfolds in East Berlin. It's 1986. It's just before the fall of the wall, which happens in 89, November of 89. And it begins with a woman, Katrina, um, who hears about the death of her former lover. There are boxes of papers of his that are delivered to her apartment. And when she finally sits down to open them, it's how the past really sort of comes out. And that's what the book sort of plays out at that time. The book then moves, starts with their first meeting, right? They're both in a bus. They both get off at the same bus stop. It's pouring with rain. They're soaked to the skin. The two of them wait at an underpass, and they're soaked to the bone. All right. And once the rain stops, they walk in the same direction. They're sort of almost keeping pace with one another. They smile at each other, and he invites her for a coffee, and voila, that's that's what it takes for the two of them to fall in love. Uh, so really, the first half of the book, you're sort of swept away with this intense romance, you know. But let me state here, when the couple meets, Katrina is 19 years old. Yeah, her young girl, entire life ahead of her. Hans, you know, is 34 years her senior, so he's well into his 50s, right? He's married with a son, apparently successful writer, a broadcaster, uh, and there's everything that's wrong about the relationship, right? Too many, the age difference, the fact that he's married, the fact that he has a son who's just a couple of years younger than Katrina, and to add to it, he is a serial philanderer, as we know in the book. So, but the author just makes the romance sort of play out like an opera. I want to tell you that, at some point, all the red flags that sort of came up in my head as I was reading, with through the romance, sort of, you seem to forget it. You seem to forget about, that this relationship is really doomed. Right from the start, you just sort of get caught up in this great emotion, and she does a great job of it, really. Sort of, that the two of them are so passionately in love. They can't think of anything else. Um, they're constantly there together. When they're not there together, both of them are only thinking about each other, and that's how the relationship carries on. Um, the relationship does begin on Hans' terms. He's the one who puts down the condition that the world cannot know about this affair. So, which means that, well, he doesn't tell his wife or his child. Nobody knows about it. She, tells her friends and tells her mother, but his family doesn't know about it. But one sort of, lets that red flag go away, because you see all the wonderful side of him. He sort of exposes her to music, to opera, to all the composers that he loves, Mozart and Chopin and Bach. They discuss poetry, they discuss Greek mythology. There's so many references to artists, architects, culture, that the two of them share. And you know how it is when two people fall in love. It's really these things that sort of connect the two people together. And he really becomes, he teaches the curious and inquisitive Katrina, and he sort of molds her in a way, in his image. His thoughts sort of become hers, and his presence or his absence is really what is really an index of her happiness or her sadness. So that's how it is. And he in they discuss everything that there is to discuss. She's so much in love with him. There are times when he goes off on vacation with his family, and she'll sneak away to the same location just so that she can get to see him. And the two of them get know that they look at each other and they know that each other is there. They're happy with the presence, although the family doesn't know about it. So that's nice. Hans also introduces her, he encourages her to go to West Germany when she gets an opportunity to go there. He tells her, talks to her about the freedom there to be able to go and eat what you like, taste what you like, go to the shops. He tells her where to go and look at. He encourages her to take up an internship out of Berlin. So it's really beautiful. It's wonderful. This romance is really, you're sort of swept away with it. Nothing sort of, you're in a happy state in the first half of the book. And then we come to the second half, really somewhere in the middle of the book, where politically, GDR is collapsing. There is talk of unification, and that's also the time when the relationship is going through a tumultuous time. Now, Katrina, when she has gone off on her internship, had a brief affair with a fellow colleague. She in one moment of passion, she slept with him, and she she so wants to tell Hans, because the two of them share, at least she shares everything with Hans. They both keep a diary, and she's finding a way to write a letter to Hans, and she sort of scribbles it on a piece of paper, about having slept with this young man, and leaves it on her table in wanting to eventually write a letter and continue and send that letter to Hans. But she doesn't finish it. Hans then, is comes to visit her. He's sitting at the table. She's not at home. He needs a scrap of paper to write down a thought, and he finds it, and he is enraged. Um, you know, at this point is where the book really takes a very, very, very dark turn. You know, needless to say, you can imagine what happens. He's enraged. He becomes violent. He punishes her severely, really, for this brief betrayal that is there. And he tries to really re-educate, into submission in a way. Now the two of them would always, um, would keep diaries, but Hans would force her, uh, to write to him every detail of that affair. When she would write it, then he would doubt that she's telling the truth. He said, if you can betray me like this, how am I to believe you? He doubts that it happened only once, although she assures him, and she begs and she pleads, and so many times it happens, so many times repetitively. It's like somebody has put a knife in your stomach and is, sort of twisting it. It is those conversations are so dark. And he insists that she write a letter to that boy saying that she didn't enjoy, sex with him, and she refuses to do that, because it's a lie, and she keeps trying to tell him it meant nothing. But he is very, very upset about it. The entire, there are chapters that go by where this plays out, in the most uh, sickening way. I read, in an interview with Michael Hoffman, the translator, and he says, this is where she creates claustrophobic intensity. And I can't think of a better word than claustrophobic. It becomes, the whole obsessive nature of Hans is so disconcerting, and so cruel, that it really, you sort of suffer along with Katrina from page to page, and you're just, at every point wanting to say, just leave him, just get out of this relationship. But she doesn't. The two of them sort of, in some absurd way, sort of cling to each other in their unhappiness. They're unable, to let go of each other, and he really sort of, um, undermines her confidence. She really, he keeps telling her, look at the mirror, you know and see the person that you are, and that you're a liar, and you have betrayed me, and it's just terrible. And I'm just going to read a little passage just to show you how it destroys her, really, at this point. And she's all of, 2021. So let me just read this passage for you. Did it take his discovery to open her eyes to the monster she truly is? Would she otherwise have carried on with the relationship in Frankfurt as Hans claimed? She doesn't believe so. But now that the circumstances have changed, she can't prove it. A monster? Hans laughed at her name for herself. No, she wasn't a monster, just someone who takes what she can get. Lowest, meanest bourgeois hypocrisy is what he called her transgression. But not even he can suffer from it as much as she does. She's disgusted by the person she sees in the mirror. She wishes she could pull off its skin. Meanest bourgeois hypocrisy. Who is she really? Which of her feelings is genuine, and which does she perform for him or for herself? What is inside? What is outside? She's endlessly grateful to Hans for not chasing her off immediately and for good, for wanting to help her become another person. I mean, you just feel terrible for what she's going through. But eventually, we'll come towards the end of the book now. You know, they they come to a point where they used to celebrate every anniversary of theirs, the first time they met, the first time they had coffee, the cafe in which they had coffee. But now the anniversaries have become the first time she betrayed him, the first time he caught her and he read that note. So it just going down the tube. They both want to go back to a time when things were good, but it just doesn't happen. They're both clinging to this unhappiness. And once the Berlin Wall falls, the relationship begins to change. Um, the orbit that these lovers are in begins to loosen, and they um, you know, eventually things change. But that's the way. That's what the book is about. Um, Let me just read to you the last bit, because the last bit is really about the entire second half plays against the collapse of GDR and the political turmoil that's happening around them, while their relationship also is in such chaos. So it took 3 weeks, and I'm reading from the book now. It took 3 weeks after the wall came down for Katrina to cross into West Berlin for the first time. Hans took her to his favorite bar or on Savingplatz. Diagonally across the square, under the railway arches, is the art bookshop where you can buy Balthus, the Master of the Cats, a hefty illustrated volume on good paper, of course, completely unaffordable. 80 marks for a book. That's about 650 GDR marks, more than a printer makes in a month. If she felt like Balthus, then she can come over here anytime and look at it, can't she? It didn't occur to any of them, not her or Hans, nor her parents, to pick up the so called welcome money that the West made ready for its brothers and sisters crossing over and avid for consumption. 100 marks. They wanted to give us a taste for it, her father said, and she thought so too. The welcome money was like litmus paper, making the shortcomings of the Eastern planned economy visible for every West German. It gave the East German the appearance of nakedness, visible to all and sundry in his desires. Not for a second had the people thought, queuing outside the West German banks on the first few days after the wall came down, that they were humiliating themselves and their country, all for a cheap, blotched, conjuring trick. I'm going to stop here now and open this up for discussion. Anybody?
Everyone looks shell shocked. Okay, folks, that's it. Let's hear you. What you have to say.
Yes, Virginia.
I would just like to say, I used to go into East Germany when the wall was still up. I went in with my German mother-in-law because she wanted to see friends that she'd been separated from. And I went with her in East Germany to visit some of her friends. And the atmosphere in East Germany behind the wall was so tense. Everybody on the street was wearing the same raincoat. The state just offered them monotonous clothes. The playgrounds, the spirit of the children was the only thing that was lively and spontaneous. You felt this Stasi all around you. And I didn't feel any of this. I mean, I felt very little of this in the novel. I expected the Stasi to be hovering over this relationship and to be reporting it, and because they would have noticed it and they would have held it against him professionally. And so that I felt there was something that was left out of this book that would have actually made it more dramatic. Perhaps she left it out because she wanted to focus on the relationship of the characters.
Yeah,
That's
I
Okay.
Yeah, and I think she also, I think what was interesting for me in the book, and maybe just my lack of knowledge and about the entire unification of Germany, I just believed what a wonderful thing had happened, right? How wonderful to have two countries that were, where the wall came down. What a wonderful symbol of breaking down barriers and unifying two countries, while the people of East Germany didn't really see it that way. They also believed that they were going to be one Germany, and in all her, in when Jenny talks about this in all her, the author, when she talks about it in all her interviews, she talks about how the East Germans for the longest time felt like second class citizens. It was such a big change for them to go from being who they were to being somebody else. So it was, and that sort of seemed, I did a little more reading up about that, but I thought, that it was such a fabulous thing that happened, but that's not how they felt.
Jenny, what's your answer to that?
It was just so different. Their lives were so, I met the daughter of a friend of my mother-in-law. She wanted to be an art historian, and she was currently working as a tailor. She had 5 years as a tailor in order to be able to study art history. So I was really surprised that Katrina was able to take these courses in theater and do all the things she was able to do. It just seemed that was not my picture of East Germany. And they
How
were so different.
did you visit them? Visit Germany later on also? Say a couple, 5, 10 years.
Yes, after the wall fell down. Yes.
No, 5, 10 years after that. After your first visit.
After the wall fell down, well, it was really very unified, and the wall disappeared, and all so quickly that you just could walk through the streets and you wouldn't have known it was who had been there. And they made every effort to unify, but the mentality was so different. The people were brought up with such a narrow vision for their future, and I was interested in the idea of going over and purchasing things that they wanted. I think this was true. These were such little things, but it meant so much to them because they had no choice before in the stores. They only could buy one kind of something they needed.
I haven't seen an issue like this ever before, but I was thinking of what happened when India was divided and the British divided the country, and this is Pakistan and this is India, and people completely think of a person who was staying in Pakistan coming across to Bombay. He would have thought it was something completely different for what we could do. I could see them in places like Kolhapur, etc. Uh, they were they didn't feel as they didn't look like they were part of the city at all. They kept themselves away. They spoke Marathi in a different style, and you knew, and they had a word for it. We Indians have great at words for refugees, etc. There's a Marathi word that was big used, that he's a refugee. I suddenly took that after 40 years, he was just a refugee. That's how they looked at him. Okay, anyone else more?
I was just thinking, like Sunita, what you said about the wall coming down and how possibly we saw it. And I think that the world must have seen it as sort of a wall coming down being equivalent to a bridge being built. And so symbolically, such a very wonderful thing. And there was so much euphoria, you know. I remember reading about it and feeling euphoric and thinking that those people must be feeling euphoric. But what you're saying is something very different, right? They didn't feel that way.
Yeah, and
Oh,
that's what I get from her interviews, and that's what Jenny Erpenbeck is trying to say, is that it wasn't all happy. They lost their identity. They were not treated as equals. They lost jobs. I mean, there were so many industries that had to shut down, and she brings that up in the book as well, in the story about people losing jobs. Hans himself, you know. Doesn't have a job, and he loses his job and things like that. But that it wasn't an easy time. It wasn't an easy time for the East Germans at all. That this was home for them. And there's a very nice line in the book which I really like, where Hans says, that this is not. Wait, if I can find it, where he says, um, "I'm home, but my home has moved away from me." Right, like, that it so much has changed for him. He is where he is, but his home has moved away. So yeah, she talks so much about how it that it just wasn't easy. It took a long time for them to be able to grapple with what was happening. um, and sometimes I don't know. I don't know, with our Western lens, if we all believe that we're doing the world a favor. We thought we were doing Iraq a favor by going in and getting rid of Saddam Hussein, and we get down all the dictators. But I don't know how much happier the Iraqis are now versus when they were under Saddam. I don't know politically if our Western lens is the right thinking. It throws up all these questions,
hmm.
that we sort of take for
Yeah,
granted.
right, right. So, Anna, you have your hand up. Would you like to pipe in?
So we had a young man from East Germany visit us after the wall came down, and he said the West Germans, their currency was so strong before the wall came down, and then when both the currencies merged, the German mark lost a lot of value, and he felt that the West Germans held it against the East Germans for this. And he also did say that they were not treated on an equal footing. I'm sure now it's just taking time and it's all settled down. But I personally, I was quite happy that the author focused more on this relationship than making the political setup
Mhm.
the most important thing, because we have read so much about the political setup in East Germany. But here's a relationship that happened in East Germany with the Stasi and all, whatever. And it's the same sort of relationship that could happen anywhere in the world, in any culture, where a much older man and a very young woman, and obviously, the man taking control and trying to mold the woman to be what he wants her to be, and the rage that comes. And it's like, okay, you're my possession.
Yeah.
And how dare you? I mean, he's sleeping with his wife, that's okay, but she can't. So I think that I don't know if I would like to read the book, but the way Sunita's presented it, I think that the author has really gone to a deeper understanding of this human relationship. And it would be, I think, very important for both young women and older men to realize. Because you see, when we were young, we saw, what was that movie? Summer 42 or something,
Yeah.
where older, yeah. So it's kind of romanticized. It shows that it doesn't work out and all. But here, this depth of him trying to control her. I'm glad that she's tried to deal with it.
I thought it's interesting, Sunita, you said in the beginning that she's very young, she's only about 19, and he shows her the world of culture and art and architecture and poetry. And, I mean, this is the growth of a young girl being guided so beautifully. And then that same force, which has been guiding beautifully, can then restrict and control and subordinate and be cruel. So, do these two very opposite, forces from the same person, do they sort of do they come out as as polarities?
Yeah,
That's a
I
very,
What's
sorry,
that,
Virginia.
Ginny?
I was just saying that's a really excellent observation, Mohini. I think that's one of the amazing things that she does in the book, the way she just describes the change in their relationship. At the beginning, it's really very beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Like I said, the first half of the book is just so lovely. I enjoyed, sort of going back and looking at who are these authors that they're talking about, and who is this architect, and who this art and culture. And by the time it got to the second half, it just, it was so difficult. I mean, she really did a great job of showing, the two, what how toxic it, and dark a relationship can get.
Mhm.
Latika, you've been very quiet.
Can I?
Latika's not well.
Okay,
Um,
okay,
she may not want to speak.
okay.
Yeah,
Latika,
Lena
if you'd
wants to
like
say
to, we'd
something.
love you to, of course.
Someone else is there.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't find the raise your hand icon, so that's why I had to, yeah, interrupt. Sunita, you did such a wonderful job of summarizing it. Um, I read, I think about one fourth of the novel, and I think it was really helpful to hear your analysis. I found the beginning very tough, especially, the whole when they I think, become physically intimate for the first time, and there is a lot of music going on, and uh, you know, death and Greek gods and all of that. And to really understand what was being talked about, I had to go to the internet and try and understand it. But one of the things that shocked me in the little amount that I read is how the mother, and this is, I am a mother to a 19-year-old, and as a mother, her mother was quite blasé about her dating a married man, as well as
Mm.
the other people in her life. That was my interpretation, that they were quite blasé about it. They did say that, oh, he's married, but nobody asked her to stop, or I think there was no judgment on her. So I just wanted to call out that observation.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. They all seemed, yeah. You're absolutely right. It was, and I don't know if it is cultural that it was that the mother didn't sort of interfere, or was judging the daughter on, she looked out for her. There were times in the book where the mother, would ask her if she was doing all right and things like that. But yep, there was no telling her, don't do this. Are you crazy? I'll lock you up at home. None of that.
Or not even pointing out that this wasn't leading, it might not lead anywhere. She might be wasting some good years of her life. None of that also. Huh, Sunita? None of
No,
that,
no,
huh?
no, no, none of that. None of that at all.
Yeah,
None of
I
that.
saw a movie recently in which this girl, is going out with sort of an undesirable sort. And the parents, now the mother believes that the girl is now, as she says, she's finished school, which means that she's an adult and she makes her own choices. So she refuses to interfere. And the father wants to have a heart to heart with his daughter. He wants to know what she's thinking, who this guy is. So there's this complete opposition. Mother thinks, no, she's an adult, it's none of our business. So I get the feeling that in Kairos, the issue is not raised at all. It's not an issue.
Yeah, it's not an issue at all.
Mm.
And she, she's like a, like any 20, 21 year old. She's, she does have other relationships, she does have other friendships, but I think what the author does is this clinging on to something that you can't give up on. And sometimes I think relationships also become like that. You see friends in relationships that are so toxic, and you think, just get out of that
I know.
relationship. And
And why don't
for
they?
some
Yeah.
reason they just don't, they just
Yeah.
cling on to something that is giving them such unhappiness. And in a way, and I, she talks about it, Jenny Erpenbeck talks about it in her interviews as well, that this is also the state of Germany trying to find, that they cannot extract themselves out of the situation that they are in, that they are unhappy about what is happening, and they sort of there together, but eventually they have to find their identity. And I think that's what she's sort of trying to, she's always, this is really an allegory of all that's happening in East Germany. So even life in GDR, where she talked, which she, I think, portrays through Hans' control over Katharina, the whole political upheaval and the upheaval in their own lives, the fall of the wall, which is psychological, which is the sense of freedom that you can get, but is that, what does that freedom mean? And I think the same thing is reflected in the relationship, that she has the choice to go, but what does it mean for her? She just sort of tends to cling on. And then, of course, the whole struggle for identity. Eventually she does move on, but but there I'm not giving away any spoilers. There are some other stuff that happens as well, and good luck to all those who want to read the book. I want to tell you that there was a very, very nice line which summed up this book, which said, this book is to be admired rather than to be enjoyed.
I think
Okay.
that's very
And
good.
I
Yeah.
thought that was a classic line, because it truly is. Because
Mhm.
the anybody who loves history and would, I think, love this book of how she has presented it. But it's yeah, you cannot enjoy this book. So that sums up this book. It is to be admired
I think
rather
your
than.
presentation has been absolutely wonderful. Just beautiful presentation.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Latika, where are you? Latika?
Everybody, I think you can switch on your videos and participate in this conversation.
Wispy,
We'd like to see you. We'd like to see the expression on your face.
who
How
saw
are you
me?
feeling about the book?
Yeah.
Who saw me? There
Okay.
is Wispy.
I'm here. And frankly, I'm a little overwhelmed because well, what a horrible relationship this seems to have become, because they seem to be destroying each other. I just wondered what is the length of the period covered in this relationship? How long is it shown in the book, Sunita?
It's largely the majority of the book where she goes through the period of when she falls in love with him, till the Berlin Wall falls. So it's about 3 or 4 years that this relationship takes place. But in the prologue that is there, it's at a time when she gets the which is already, she's married and things like that. So I don't know what period that is, but the entire book and the love story, or if you can call it a love story, the entire relationship is about 3 or 4 years.
Okay. And you feel they really destroyed each other, or he
Or
destroyed?
did only he destroy her? I mean, how do
Yeah.
you look at it?
Hmm.
Yeah, but just my personal view, he destroyed her. And I just want to, just give her the benefit of, she was so young. I just, just terrible that somebody so young needed to go through this. And I'm saying she really, the second half of the book is so difficult to go through and she really rubs it in. Every encounter is so painful, because he is constantly badgering her and reminding her how she has been unfaithful and how she has betrayed him and how she should never say I love you anymore, and this young girl is just, just wants to be in this relationship and wants to love him and wants to have his baby. And oh, it is so tough. So yeah, I think it is. I definitely think he sort of he
Sunita,
knew what he was doing.
that confession of hers. I mean, you said that she wrote it on a piece of paper and she meant to write him a letter. I mean, does she ever think of not telling him? Isn't that a possibility?
I don't think so, because she just has this relationship with him where she feels she has to give her, her whole to him. So there is no, I would have never imagined, and it's not there in the book, where she would have even thought of not telling him. She does, but eventually, as the story progresses, there are things that happen to her that she doesn't uh, tell him. But at this point, she's just, so in love with him that
She's
doesn't.
just so honest and
Yeah, yeah.
so
And the
thoroughly
fact is,
committed, I guess.
yeah, and the fact is that he has had multiple relationships. He is cheating on his wife at this point,
Yeah.
right? And that sort of is not, it's just one of those classic things that play out. So
So
still,
is that pointed out? I mean, is there any kind of emphasis on that? Or is this
it's so
just something that the reader obviously knows and sees?
it's brought out so many times, of the times when he is with his wife and he goes on vacation with his wife and son, and he sleeps with Katrina on the same bed with, where he has slept with his wife, and it's his marital bed, and all those kind of things are brought out, but there's no, he doesn't seem to have a problem with it at all.
I see. My goodness.
Where is
My
Latika?
blood is beginning to boil.
Latika? Latika?
Anna has her hand up.
Come and Anna.
Yeah,
Satish,
so
Latika is well. She may not choose to speak,
Okay,
okay?
okay.
So strangely enough, that though this is a very dark book, it seems, it could have ended much worse for this young girl, right? As it stands, it did not end. So perhaps the crumbling of the Berlin Wall is symbolic of the freedom she gets from him. I don't know. I may be jumping the gun there, but it could have gone much worse for her. And the fact that she got away and went back to living a normal life is a wonderful thing. He was not fully able to control her mind. And it brings to mind, though I'm not saying, but like we in India do not think that our girls at 19 or even our boys do not need our protection. It is a pointer that at 18 and 19, just because you're allowed to vote, it does not mean that you're actually mature enough to do without your parents' protection. I mean, I hope that's not an old fashioned way of looking at things. But on the other hand, books like this will also open up young people's minds to what could go wrong. So anyway, at least it didn't go wrong in the end. So that at least I think is a wonderful thing. And I really
Saving
did,
grace.
yeah, and I really did enjoy the presentation. It was really done very sensitively. Yeah, thanks so much for that.
Gautam, come on in. And Leslie Pereira.
I'm sorry. I just came in. So I don't know what at all.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I forgot about this today's review. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh
We'll
God,
see.
Gautam, you would have had so many things to say about this, Gautam. So many things. I swear you
I
would.
just joined. I just joined 2.5 minutes ago, and I heard you
Okay.
criticizing the guy.
Oops.
I would have come to his defense.
Maybe not. If
Who's
you'd heard the whole
Unako?
presentation.
Lenovo tab Unako? Unako? Lenovo tab
Uma.
Uma?
Is that Uma Venkatraman? Is that you? Uma?
Yes, I'm here.
Come in on the discussion.
No, I'm just listening in. The presentation was very interesting, but the story itself doesn't seem to be all that great. And given the choice, I may not read it, But I am happy to know that such books are written and discussed, and it opens up a whole new world of ideas and feelings and emotions and so many things which normally we do not come across.
Very
And
true.
like one of the participants said, in India, we do not have that kind of mentality. We just let a child, I mean, they're still children as long as they are with us in our homes till they are even 25. And we, especially girls, and they are supervised. And all their boyfriends and girlfriends, all are scrutinized.
Or screamed.
So this poor girl
Sunita,
being thrown there into the company of this much older man and struggling it out like that, um, it does seem a little unfortunate.
Okay, okay. More. I think people are dropping out now. I think.
yeah, no, I just want to ask Sunita. Sunita, I totally see that it's a book to be admired, maybe more than enjoyed and all that. That's very well said. What did you think was the best quality of the book? What did you think the book is worth reading for? I mean, is it the allegory? Is it that the breaking of the wall and all that, and this couple and the personal story reflecting each other? Is that the great thing, or what is it?
Yeah, I think if you love historical fiction, I think this is a book to read about East Germany. The allegory is very well brought out. Really, it's dark and it's difficult to deal with, but that is what the author is trying to tell us. That is the story of East Germany, of living under repression, control, this whole struggle with identity kind of thing. So if that is something that you want to know more about, I think she does that very well. Difficult to read,
Okay.
but she does that well.
Uh,
Okay.
Actually, I feel that is a bit contrived. Their personal relationship and the breaking of the wall and uh, East Germany and West Germany and all that. Um, I don't know why it's put together like this. I fail to understand. I find it too contrived.
Uma,
Am I?
in one of her interviews, she talks about um, wanting to actually write a book about her life as a child in East Germany. She said she would have liked to create a museum, taking people through what it was like in East Germany,
Mhm.
and that sort of gave the seed for writing a book. And then it came up, and then sort of Katrina, in a way, is her, her 19-year-old self when she was in East Germany, and then she wanted to bring the whole you know uh bring about what life was like, and then that's when she introduced Hans and things like that. So really she wanted to write a book about her life, about East Germany. She wants the world to know what was life like in East Germany, and this was what it is. And there's so much of detail, about regular life, about cafes, about menu, about what you can eat, about the streets, things like that. So there's a lot. This book is really, really, and the more I think about it, this book is really about the country. The characters are just, a reflection of what that country was going through.
Okay.
Mm.
Wispy,
Okay. Now,
Wispy, there
Rishi
is the
has
hand.
her hand up, and
Yes.
Latika has just messaged me saying, "Please unmute me." But where
Oh,
is Latika now? I can't see her.
okay, Wispy.
Okay,
Actually,
Wispy, go ahead.
I'm trying to link the title with what I've heard just now, and I'm not very clear. Kairos. That was
Yeah.
explained right in the beginning, but can Sunita connect that for me?
Yeah, she actually writes it in the epilogue itself, where she says, and I'll read this out. Kairos, the god of fortunate moments, is supposed to have a lock of hair on his forehead, which is the only way of grasping hold of him. But once the god has slipped past on his winged feet. The back of his neck is sleek and hairless, nowhere to grab hold of. Was this a fortunate moment then, when she, just 19, first met Hans? So she picks that moment of that meeting Hans. Was it a fortunate moment? Was it a Kairos moment?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mo, I think take over.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, I can't now see Latika because she messaged me saying, please unmute me. And I would gladly do so if I could, but maybe she slipped away. All right.
There's someone,
Well,
Xiaomi. Is that her?
no,
Xiaomi
No.
2000
no, it
something.
came as, no, she was labeled
No,
as Latika
sorry
Padga.
guys, that was me, but it's been such a long time that I was just listening what's happening.
Who's
And
speaking?
yeah, this is Suyash.
Was
Lotika
who?
is not,
Who was
Lotika is
that?
not
Suyash. Suyash.
participant, Mohini. I don't see
Oh,
Lotika.
Suyash.
So,
Gosh, time no see, man. Where have you been?
Yeah, exactly. I was in another world, so I decided to see what's happening. So today I luckily got the update at the right time and I decided to listen in.
You caught the curl of the god, right?
Yeah, yeah.
but Suyash,
Okay.
you have my phone number. Send me
Yeah,
your
yes, Satish.
send a letter to me so I can put you on again so that you can come on to speak
Oh,
anytime.
he's there. He's there. He's
Yeah,
always
yeah, I'm
Is
there.
there. I'm there. It's just that I could not find time, but I'm glad that I want to make this a practice and a habit to be on these Sunday calls.
Do that. Do that. Good to
Yeah,
have you. Okay.
Okay.
thanks.
So I think, as usual, Sunita's done a great job, doesn't she always? And this has been a book, I think, worth talking about. It's been a book worth attending to. And I'm glad to know that it's out there. Um, I don't know. I feel like reading it. I know that somebody said that they didn't want to read it, but I do. I want to find out. Now that you've given us all these pointers and offered us a few opinions, I want to get in there and see what I feel also. So, yes, I'm going to look for the book. I have been looking actually, but I shall get to it. Okay, so Sunita, thank you so much for doing this for us. We've all
Pleasure.
clearly enjoyed it. Everybody present today who is here and who participated, who put their thinking caps on and weighed in, thank you so much for your effort. And those who came but didn't speak, thank you for being here too. All right. So all the best. I'm going to stop recording now and
When did we
close
see
up
you again?
shop. So you have the calendar. Yeah, you know what's happening. Weigh in again. All right. Bye then. All the best. Good reading.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.